Hey, everybody. How do you build a healthy relationship with someone in 15 minutes or less? There is a way to do it. And this is true whether you're working with clients, whether you're talking about customers at a business, or whether you're talking about people in your church. That the same principle is going to hold true. And it works using a simple equation: 1, 3, 1. 1, 3, 1. In 15 minutes, using the equation 1, 3, 1, you can build a really good, healthy relationship with people. So, what's the 1, 3, 1? So, what is 1, 3, 1? The first one is one good question. One good question. Now, to understand how you ask one good question, there is a process here as well. So, let me show you what that one good question should be. See, many people, when they try to build a relationship with someone, what they're kind of first thinking about is what's the small talk thing we can get involved in? Is there a hobby? They're always looking for some sort of commonality. But here's what happens when you build a relationship around commonality: is before long your relationship becomes extremely tunneled. And what I mean by that is we all have those people that we interact with, and every time we're around them it's the same topic. It's like we don't know how to have any other conversation because we never really found how to form a real relationship. We just have this connection point. It was maybe a sport we played, a school we went to, a hobby we happen to have in common. Not too long ago I was out with a group of guys. We were all playing disc golf together, and for 9 straight holes, uh, two particular guys we were playing with spent 9 holes doing nothing but talking about the different discs in their bags. And they got done talking about how great of a day it was. And it was, but they didn't actually build a better relationship. They just found this sort of tunnel vision topic. And the problem is, once you get into that tunnel, it is hard to get out of it. That's why this is such a struggle. Too many people, when they think about building a relationship, are thinking, how do they find common ground? And and I'm suggesting to you that's not the right way to do it. That's the way to build a connection, not a relationship. A relationship is built by asking one good question. Now, that question is going to follow the following pattern to go into deeper and deeper relationships. The first type of question you should ask is related to the place you are in. And when I say place, I mean in part the actual location, right? An example of that: if you're going to be meeting with someone for the first time and you're going to meet them at their office, one of the best things you can do is just ask them, hey, you mind giving me a tour of the place? Because as they start to give you a tour of the place, you get to ask some good questions about the place. Oh, man, that is really interesting how you guys use that conference room. How do you actually use that conference room? Is it used often? Yeah. And they can begin to talk to you about that. Hey, what do you love about this building? What do you struggle with? How has it helped you achieve your goals? Has it maybe held you back? When I go to meet ministers for the first time, if I'm working with a church, again, one of the first questions I ask is, hey, will you give me a tour of your place? Not uncommon when you walk into someone's home for the first time. Hey, can you give me the nickel tour here just to see the place a little bit? The reason you want to do that is, as you're going around the place, there are signals that people have within their life that you can look at and begin to ask some better, deepening questions. Give you a right example, wrong example. Not uncommon to see a picture of the kids. And let's say one of the kids is playing soccer, and it's not uncommon for someone to go, oh man, your kid's into soccer? It's really not the right question. Consider this question instead: how long ago was that picture taken? Because that's going to give you some insight into who this person is, into whether it's still something they're interested in or whether they just really like the picture. But from there, you're usually going to be able to get the person to open up a little bit about who they are. And at that point, you get to ask your question about the place, and then you get to move to the other 3, 1. One question, three mirrors, Three mirrors. Now, when we talk about mirrors, all we're saying is you're going to take a word or a phrase they used in their explanation of the question and their answer, and you're going to repeat that phrase back to them as a question. As a question? Yeah, a question that makes them dive a little bit deeper into what they're trying to explain. Like dive, dive deeper. Dive deeper. How? Oh well, like when you feel you have to get people to explain themselves, there's a better tendency for them to really become a bit more introspective. You're asking them why without asking them why. Because why can sometimes be a bit of an offensive question to people. Why did you do that? Right? And so, if instead you just repeat back to them what they said, you're going to get a better, more introspective answer. That's all you're going to do. Repeat 1 to 3 words back to them as though it were a question. 3 mirrors. After your 3 mirrors, you're going to add one label. One of these days, I'm going to learn how to write in such a way people can read it, but that day won't be today. One label. Here's what you're doing with your label. The label is where you're usually saying, I see, it feels like, it sounds like, it makes me feel, or do you feel, and you're going to put some sort of marker on it. So let's use that soccer picture as our example. How long ago was that picture taken? Oh, that picture was taken about 5 years ago. 5 years? Yeah, she was really into soccer at the time. Not so much anymore. Anymore? So what now then? Oh, well now she's into this hobby and that hobby, or right. And at that point, you can add a label that says something like, "Oh man, that sounds like you guys are a really busy family. Oh, that sounds like this isn't your favorite kind of hobby. Sounds like you guys must travel every weekend. It sounds expensive. That feels like something you're really passionate about. That that feels like something maybe you never saw coming." You're adding a label to it. That label acts similar to a mirror. But what the label does is it allows you to move to the next part of the question. It allows you to ask your second series of questions, and that one is going to be based around their position. The second question based on position. And what I mean by that is their role within the environment. Their role as a spouse, as a parent, as a coworker, the career path they are on, where they fit within the community. It's not completely personal, but there is a personal touch to it. And so, because of this, they're going to tell you about the position. Oh, so do so it sounds like maybe you've coached that before in your past? Yeah. Now we have a position conversation. Man, what was it that got you into coaching? What did you like the most about it? What did you not? And you're kind of it may take 2 or 3 questions before you find a good mirroring statement, but then you're going to go back to this. From their position, you're going to mirror 3 times. Once you mirror 3 times, then you're able to add another label. In that mirror, what you're looking to do by the time you get to the mirrors and the labels is you're trying to move to a more personal kind of label. What is it that you personally get as a reward for doing this? Man, that sure feels like it's maybe running you ragged right now, like emotionally, spiritually, physically. Uh, that sure feels weighty. That you'd be in that place right now, right? And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get to that kind of label that allows me to ask now the personal question. How does that make you feel? How do you process that? What kind of weight do you carry from that? What kind of joy are you getting out of that? Right? What's the reward for you? And in doing so, then we're able to go back to our 3 mirrors and a label. Now, this is a big deal. If you really want this to work well, you want to really build a good relationship with someone, here's how that'll work. You start with the place, Takes about 5 minutes to do one place question, 3 mirrors, one label. Then one position question, 3 mirrors, one label. One personal question, 3 mirrors, one label. About 5 minutes each. You're able to move through that. Now you've had a 15 to 20 minute conversation with someone. But when you get to the personal, the struggle here is that the personal conversation can feel a little vulnerable. So one of the best things you can do to help really strengthen the relationship is to move from the personal topic and make a positional label or a positional statement, right? So let's say we've been talking about the kid playing soccer, that picture, what they're into now, this, that, and the other. Finally, this person reveals some, really personal issue to them. And for you to go, oh man, have kids, they say. It'll be great, they say. Notice I'm not talking about them as a person, I'm talking about their position as a parent. I move back up into a positional statement. It lightens the mood and it makes you a safe place to be vulnerable. Now, in 15 minutes, you have now built a really healthy relationship with someone. This is going to be useful in business, it's useful in friendships, it's useful in hobbies, it's useful in your relationships with your kids, with your spouse, your church. It's just useful. Now, 2 objections. We've got to address 2 objections because there's 2 objections to this one every time. The first one is if you follow this as this defined model, 1-3-1. Again, as you get used to it, you'll adjust a little bit, but it's a pretty good rule of thumb, 1-3-1. The first objection is, aren't people going to read right through that? And the answer is no. No, they won't. And the reason for it is because people are more caught up in the question that was asked to them than they are the pattern of the questions. A while back, I was explaining this to a group of people, and one person looked at me and said, Brian, I just don't think that'll work. I mean, people are going to read right through that. And I went, read right through that? They said, yeah, because you're just repeating the same thing over and over. Like, they're going to notice that you're doing that if you keep doing it. I'm like, keep doing it? What do you mean keep doing it? Well, like you're repeating the pattern so consistently, they're going to start reading through it. In fact, they're going to start thinking that you're manipulating them. And they began to explain that. And I said, man, it sounds like you just maybe don't trust it, or you're concerned that people will not trust you on the other side of that. Now, about this time, 2 or 3 other people in the room started chuckling because we've been having this conversation for about 5 to 7 minutes. And she looks over at the woman who had kind of questioned me on this, looks over at these others and goes, what are you guys laughing about? And they go, he's doing it to you right now. It absolutely works. Now, that's the first objection. Second objection, this one's serious. Second objection to the 1-3-1 model of building relationships. Serious. Isn't it manipulative? And here's the issue with manipulation. A hammer is a tool. That tool can be used to build a home or destroy the home. The hammer is the tool. What matters is the hand of the person who is wielding it. This is a tool. How you use it is a matter of the heart of the person who is carrying this process. If you want to use it to manipulate people, you could. You could. It's not why I'm trying to show it to you. I'm trying to show it to you in order to build a house, to build a relationship that has a solid foundation in it. That's what this is about. Can you use it for manipulation? Yes. But that's not the heart behind it. The heart behind it is, how do you build relationships with people that really matter, that help to move them into a more trusting environment, that help them to move into a better relationship with you, with potentially your company, with your church? How do you help people build better relationships? And if you follow this pattern, you can build a really good, strong, healthy relationship in 15 minutes or less that gives you a foundation for knowing that person well and for them to feel cared for. Many of us have heard the phrase at one point or another in our lives, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. This process will allow you to let them know how much you care first. All right, thanks everybody. If there's any other things like this that you'd like to know more about, any questions you'd like to have about it, You can either follow along, may post it later, add it in the comments here, or reach out to me, Brian at GormanCoaching.com. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.